This video is about how to make punkish, grungy flowers for use with steampunk and what I've called FlowerPunk front covers or other decorations, other things decorated in the same fashion. Now, these are the kind of flowers that you can get. They're made of card and they're sort of slightly shaped, but for me they are incredibly regular. Now, I'm not into regular and I don't like the patterns on them very much, but you could paint over those, that would not be a problem. They're just a teensy bit too regular for me, so I abandoned that idea and I went through a process of trying various things, of which I will show you the end results. This is one. Now that is made using hot melt hot glue in a hot glue gun. Now that's fine, but it will sit flat on the surface, and that was a bit... I wanted something a bit better than that. So I went on to the next stage, which was using this stuff, which is florist's wire that's been coated in a sort of brown paper or raffia-like substance. I think it's brown paper, but there we are. Now, I used that to make this, which is okay. I've put too many petals on here, so I wouldn't use that. I mean, I'd probably cut some off, like a few of those off and reposition things, but that was okay. I painted it by spraying it with silver paint, as you can see, silver metallic paint. That's not too bad. But then I went on to another section. Now, the same way as doing these, by drawing the shape with the glue gun, I made little flower leaves with the wire. I'll show you this in a moment, but this is the result. Now that was made, as was this one, putting the hot glue round and then spraying the thing with the silver metallic paint again. That's fine, I like those. But then I thought, I can do a bit better than that. Let's try a different shape. So I tried this shape, which is with these lines more like veining that you sometimes see in some flowers like irises and things like that. And I quite like that. Again, I sprayed it with silver metallic paint, and then I went over it with some gilding wax. I'll show you how I did that in a moment. Another way I thought of doing flowers was to use some of this stuff, which is greenhouse shading netting. It's quite good, but I also threaded some of the wire from this, took the paper off and threaded the resultant wire through this, cut this out into leaf shapes. I cut an entire flower with the leaf shapes out, threaded the wire through, painted it, covered it with tinfoil, crushed up, and then painted it with black acrylic, and that's the result. I'll show you how I made this as well. Take a piece of this stuff, which you can get from the range in the flower department. It's got a wire core and some sort of raffia wrapped around it. Take pieces of this, unwind the raffia, or paper, or whatever they call it. There you go. Fiddly, but you want to get the paper off so that you've got the wire core on its own. And then, when you've got the paper completely off, like that, discard the bit of paper and get some of this greenhouse shading material and thread the wire through all the way around the edges. I put a piece through the middle as well for the centre, so that each of these petals now has a wire stiffener so that you can shape and bend it into shape. Right, now that's done. Now I've tried different ways of doing a flower. This is one, as you've seen before, me doing it with the greenhouse shading, threading wire through so that I can position the petals like this, as you can see, which isn't too bad, I don't think. And I've got a centre for it, again just made out of tinfoil. That's one. Another way of doing it was to use this stuff, which is florist's twine with a wire core, and I made that. Yes, well, not sure. It's a bit big for this. I mean, it just might work sort of on the edge, don't know. Another way I thought of doing it was again using the same wire with the straw around it and using hot glue. Now this has worked quite nicely, I think. That's not bad at all. I like that. So what I'm going to do is show you how I did that one, because that's nice and simple and you can use any number of petals. This one I went a bit nuts and I've got an even number of petals, and I don't like even numbers of petals in nature. It's sort of 3, 5, 7, odd numbers mostly. So you take a piece of the lovely wire, see if you can get it without unravelling the entire load like I did just now. Right, want a piece, so you'll need some wire cutters. Want a piece about, I don't know, let's see, about that long, give or take. So that's about a foot, foot and a half. Chop it off. And with this, you just cut it into the same size piece. So what I did is I just cut it in half, and then in half again, and so on and so forth. Quite simple. So that eventually you end up with a piece that's a workable size. Of course, try not to do that and lose the entire bit of wire. Yeah. So you can either have nice big ones or slightly smaller ones. I want mine a bit smaller than that, so I'm cutting a bit off. And I think those cutters are not the best. I must get my other cutters out. Anyway, now that we've got this, that's the right size. You can see it's the right size compared to those anyway. Just twist wire. Use a nice pair of pliers to make sure you haven't got any sharp bits that are going to get on here. And then, with it positioned on one of these nice mats, I love this mat. I've only recently got this, but then I recently got this as well. I've had the ordinary glue gun. This is the one that you don't have to have your trailing wire everywhere. And the last time I had one of those, it had a little stand here and half of it fell off, so not the best. So I'll just pause it while I cut a few more of these so I can show you what I'm doing. Right, now you've got them cut, and then you just twist them together so they've got a fixed end. So what you do, flatten them all out so that they sit on this nice surface. Might be a little bit not quite open enough. Try not to get the wire sticking in your fingers the way I do. Open them out, shape them into the kind of shape you want your end product to be, you see. There we go, making a right mess. Now this is just a stylised design. It's not meant to be the veins of the leaves, however much it may look a bit like the veins of the leaves. these must be left to set. Okay. Can adjust it as you like. That one's probably a bit of a mess, but I'm learning as I go. Right, and when you peel them off, they look like that, which I think isn't too bad. And it's got a nice flat surface on the side that was in contact with a mat, and a lovely bumpy surface on the other side. And then you just have to wait and see what happens.
Here I'm making a leafy petally shape directly on the hot glue gun mat, but I'm not sure if it's going to work.
Well, we'll see how that works. I think I'll put a little stem on it as well, just to be on the safe side, in case it does work. You never know. In the meantime, these have now set, so you can peel them off. Lovely, I think they're really nice. You just need the glue strings cleaning off these. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there was the experimental one. That one. You know, I'm really quite pleased with that one. I won't be using it on this project, I don't think, but oh, it's rather nice. Yeah, again, needs glue strings clearing off, but there we are. Just painting with the fresco paints, the translucent ones, on the tinfoil flower I made earlier. There you go. I've used Limelight and Beach Hut. Right, and next taking some little bit of inky pool, and I'm going over each of these petals, just with a little touch here and there, dragging the brush down in the direction of the growth of the petals. Gives it a little bit more detail. And blends in the two colours a little bit better as well.
Here I'm laboriously sticking tiny little black beads to the centre of this grunge flower.
Okay, here's the finished result with all its little beads stuck on. Just got to let them dry now. I'm not really happy with this colour, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint over this with black acrylic and then go over it with the gilding wax in the same way that I've done the doors or front covers, etc. This has worked quite well. I've done both sides. That's the big one, the one that didn't look all that brilliant before. It doesn't look too bad at all now. And you can see what I meant about the difference between the centres of these two. This one is good and smooth. This one is almost like a rose, really, sort of quite different. Interesting. And that's worked really well. They look quite smart, actually. It's a shame to put stuff on, but they'll need, I've only just done them, and they're going to need about a couple of hours to completely dry. Then I'll have a go with, I don't know, some wax or something.